say both, because we have seen so many attacks. So we have seen more of the same stuff that we have seen in the past, and at the same time we have seen some things which are unique and which we don't encounter on a daily basis. We have seen not only an increase in the number of cyber attacks originating from the Russian APTs, but also an increase in aggression. So whereas over the past 8 years there was a dominance of covert attacks, mostly focusing on cyber espionage, and every once in a while a disruptive attack like NotPetya or the two power grid attacks in 2015 and 2016, but the destructive attacks were spread over time. Whereas since this February, since the open military conflict started, we have seen a much higher concentration of the disruptive and destructive attacks. So these were mostly in the forms of wipers. So the first of which we have seen on December 23rd, in the evening, only a couple of hours before the invasion started. So this was a real cyber precursor to the invasion. And that was only the first in a series of many wipers that we have seen. So there was Caddy Wiper, Isaac Wiper, and a lot of others, some of which, Caddy Wiper, for example, we have seen repeatedly in many different attacks, especially in the first months of the war, but even until relatively recently. So all that is to say that it's not just an increase in the number of attacks, but in the types of attacks. So they are more overt. They are trying to cause disruption rather than just pre-positioning themselves and covertly harvesting data for espionage. Well, I'm very careful in actually evaluating the success rate of those cyber attacks that we have seen, because, I mean, true, kinetic attacks have been inflicting a lot more damage and maybe can be considered, much more effective. But the cyber attacks, they have been causing disruption. So I definitely would not want to dismiss them and saying that they haven't caused impact, because they did. A lot of systems in Ukraine have been taken offline, wiped, and so on. So that's the negative aspect. But of course there is the positive that a lot of those attacks have been prevented, have been blocked. Ukrainian cyber defense is quite resilient, so that is good news. And definitely a lot more damage that the attackers wanted to accomplish has been prevented. And a great example of that is the April 8th attack with Indestroyer 2, where they failed to cause any significant impact in the form of an actual power outage. So that was actually historically the third attempt to cause a power disruption with a cyber attack. And the success rate has been declining. So the greatest impact was in the first one in December 2015. Then there was the first Indestroyer attack in December 2016, where there was a 1-hour power outage. And in April this year, there was not any power outage to speak of. So that is definitely a good news. But as I said, I would not want to dismiss or underestimate the impact that the cyber attacks can cause. Yeah, so a lot of these attacks are in the form of coordinated DDoS attacks, so distributed denial of service, which are quite often coordinated through various Telegram channels, groups, the likes of Anonymous and so on, and they're coordinated by sympathizers of both sides of the conflict. So we do see attacks against institutions, against Ukrainian institutions, as well as Russian institutions as well. That's something that we don't really have direct visibility into, so we are aware of that it is in the news, but we actually pulled out of the Russian market after the invasion started, so we don't have direct telemetry and visibility into the cyber attacks targeting Russian organizations. I would say that we have quite a unique vantage point as the most widely used endpoint security vendor in Ukraine. So a lot of the critical infrastructure and both private and public sector organizations are our clients and users. So we can see the attacks happening, basically firsthand. So that is definitely an advantage, but at the same time, no one organization has 100% visibility. That's why it's important to have various sources, and also the reason why we do sharing with the community. So even in the Industry 2 incident, we provided the analysis IOCs also to other organizations, some of which might not have been our clients, for them to be able to benefit from this and for them to be able to protect themselves. It's dozens of people, some of which, like the people in my team, for example, are actively analyzing the malware, tracking the campaigns, and compiling the reports. Then there are other engineers, of course, responsible for the automation part of the whole project, and background infrastructure, because obviously there's so many of those attacks that it's not possible to process them by hand. So there's a lot of automated clustering, machine learning going on. So yeah, it's a team of dozens of people. I think the Polish cybersecurity has come a long way, and there are lots of activity, and I think organizations are realizing that cybersecurity needs to be a priority and not only an afterthought, because if they would, have that way of thinking, then with all the major incidents, and not only APTs, but even financially motivated ransomware, it might often be too late. So I think organizations are having a better mindset and investing more resources and effort into cybersecurity, which I think is a great thing.